Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's mastermind class. My name is Deepak, and today we will be covering YouTube marketing. Now, we do have a couple of guests joining us for today's class, so you guys are welcome. Thank you so much for coming in. Feel free to put any question in the chat box. We'll be happy to cover those for you at the end of the class. All right, so let's get started and let's talk about how you can grow your YouTube channel. Now, before we begin today's lesson, what we want to do is a real quick review our last meeting. So in the last meeting, we talked about why build a presence on YouTube. We talked about how to build your channel. We talked about what equipments to buy and how to set up your home studio. Now, since we have a couple of guests with us today, let me just remind everyone, usually we do not ask people to buy anything. Typically, all the marketing tools that you generally need, we provide them in the group. But obviously, we don't make cameras and microphones and all that. So there's a couple things you do have to buy. So we talked about all this stuff in the last meeting. So here's what we are going to cover in today's lesson. We are going to talk about some of your video hosting options and why you might choose one option over the other. We'll talk about the 5-step journey of your audience, meaning, what are some of the decisions your customers make, your prospects make on YouTube. And lastly, we'll talk about each one of those steps and how you can grow your channel. Now, in the next class, we will focus on content aspect of your YouTube channel. We'll talk about how should you craft a fancy headline, how should you write a description, what kind of tags you should include, what kind of links you should put in your video. We should, how do you create a beautiful thumbnail, coming up with your content calendar and various ideas related to coming up with content for your YouTube channel. All right, guys, let's get started. So, you create a beautiful video, now you want to host it. Well, you have an option to put it on YouTube, you have an option to put it on Facebook or on your website. So where would you host it? Well, the answer is you should do it in all 3 places. Yes, you should put it on YouTube. Yes, you should upload it to Facebook. And yes, you should put it on your website. But don't do it all at once, all right? So what you want to do is put a video on YouTube and then promote that video. Then put the video on your website, promote that video, then put it on your Facebook page and then promote it. If you put the videos on all 3 places all at once, you won't be able to effectively promote them. So it's a good idea to have the video in all 3 places, but do it one place at one time, promote it, then move to the next medium, promote it, then move to the next medium. And I'll explain a little bit more about why you should do it that way. But this is your tip number 1. Do host your video in all 3 places, but do it one at a time. So let's try to understand your audience journey. So if you think about your customer when they go on YouTube, they are going through 5 stages. Stage number 1 is they have to find your content, your video. They have to be able to find it. Step number 2, they should be able to click on it. Now, just because we found a video, we might not click on it, right? We do that many times. And then even if we click on it, we might not watch the video, okay? And if we did watch it, we might not subscribe to a video. And if we did subscribe, we might not come back and watch your other videos. So these are the 5 stages your audience goes through: find, click, watch, subscribe, and repeat. That means we can lose our customers at any one of these stages. So we have to identify these stages and optimize them so we don't lose our customers in these stages. Now, good news is that you can actually measure each one of these steps. So if you go to YouTube channel analytics, you'll see these 4 tabs there: overview, reach, engagement, and audience. If you click on the first tab, reach, you will see number of impressions and click-through rate. So these 2 numbers are telling you what is your reach, how many people are able to find your video. And click-through rates tells you how many people are going to click on your video or clicked on your video. And on the engagement tab, you can find for how long somebody watched your video and what's the total watch time. So you can actually figure out your audience retention, like are people really liking your content or not, okay? And then on the third tab for audience, you have subscribers and return visitors. So pretty much all of those 5 steps can be quantified. So thanks to Google, thanks to YouTube, we can actually measure what is it that we are trying to do. So if you have not really checked that out, then I strongly recommend that you do check your channel analytics. At least take a look at it so you know how to track those 5 things. So our problem number one is that we want our videos to reach as many people as possible, right? We want the maximum reach. We want more and more people to watch our video. So one of the most common mistakes people make is they put up a video and they just hope YouTube will do the rest. It will promote your video, it will get it in front of other people, and lots of people will watch your video. That's a big myth. So if you're depending on that idea, you're going to lose out. So don't do that. Don't depend on YouTube. So that's why I draw 3 little circles here. And as you can see, they're like a cycle, meaning the cycle starts with you. And then it goes to YouTube, and then it comes back to you. So what that means is when you put up a video, you need to tell YouTube who your audience is. And you do that by giving them a title of a video. You do that by writing some description, putting some tags, some information about the content in the video. And then you need to give YouTube some audience. Okay, these are the 2 steps. So most people do the step number 1, meaning they do put a title, they put a description, because they can't upload a video without those. All right, so they do that to step 1, but they do not do the step 2. They do not tell YouTube who their audience is. So you do that by giving your video some audience. So how do you give your video an audience? Well, you need to promote that video. You need to put that link on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on your email list, everywhere you possibly can, and give some audience to YouTube. Now, if you do that, YouTube now understand who your audience is, and it will try to find similar audiences and then promote your YouTube video to those audiences. And now you have some traffic coming back to you. After a few months, you do that again. You once again promote the video, and YouTube goes back and work and promote your video as well. So it's always a cycle. You do a little bit of work, YouTube will do the heavy lifting. You do a little bit of work, and YouTube will do the heavy lifting. But if you don't do if you don't do your part, then YouTube is not going to do the heavy lifting. So don't depend on YouTube to promote your video unless you're willing to initially promote your video. So you probably have noticed that people who, for example, advertise on YouTube, their videos naturally rank higher and get more views. Now, some of you might say, well, that's not good or that's bad. Well, I would not make a comment on that. But the principle here is that YouTube has a better audience. They know what kind of people like your videos, so they naturally distribute those videos. By the way, similar kind of principle applies to Facebook as well. But since this is not a Facebook class, we're not going to talk about that. So this is your tip number 2 for the day. So how do you promote your YouTube video? Go ahead and post a video, and then go ahead and start posting that link in your groups on Facebook or LinkedIn or WhatsApp, in chats. Send it to your friends, family members, send an email blast and include that YouTube video in there. Put it up on your social media pages, put it on your blog post. Promote that video. Remember, the goal here is you are trying to tell YouTube who is your audience. And if you do a really good job with that, then you're going to be able to get YouTube to work for you and distribute your video to even more, larger audience set, basically. All right. Now, one of the techniques you can use is within the description links, you can always put links to your old videos. If you go to YouTube and start searching, some people are doing a really, really good job with description. Now, the reason why I bring that up is because description is not obviously visible when you look at a YouTube video. It's kind of like hidden, but it is an important aspect. People who like your video, they will probably click more information tab and read a description, and then obviously they can find some other videos. And this also helps YouTube obviously find you a larger audience as well. So this is your tip number 2 for the day. So by the way, let me just do a little pop quiz. If you know what was the tip number 1, if you still remember it, go ahead and put it in the comment. So let me give you guys like about 15 seconds. Go ahead and put your comments in the chat box as to what 2 tips we have discussed so far. So just put it up there, and then we will continue with our rest of the class. All right, thank you very much, guys, for all your comments. So here's what we have learned so far. Tip number one, do not post your videos on all platforms at the same time. Big no-no, that is going to hurt you. You want to promote on one platform at a time. So you can post a video on YouTube today, wait few days, then you can post it on Facebook, wait few days, then you can post it on website or any other way you like. Doesn't matter where it goes first. But the point is, no matter where you post it, you need to give it proper attention and properly promote it on that channel. All right, so that's tip number one. Tip number two we learned is promote your YouTube video by promoting the link. So do not depend on YouTube to distribute your video to larger audience unless you can tell YouTube who your audience is. And you do that by promoting that link. Send your customers there. So now YouTube can learn, oh, this kind of customers like this video. Let me show this video to other similar customers. So you need to drive those first couple of hundred of views on your YouTube video. And after that, YouTube will take over from there. All right, now that we have reached our audience, the next step is that audience needs to click on that reach so they can actually watch your video. Now, the way you can do that is by displaying a good looking thumbnail and have a nice headline. We will talk more about that in next training session. But for today, what I want to talk to you about is you need to identify who your audience is and what kind of relationship you want to build with that audience, what kind of emotions, what kind of connection. All of those things will go into what kind of image you use, what kind of headlines you use, what kind of description you write. So all of that stuff is important. So let me give you an idea. Let's say if I was Hispanic real estate agent. So obviously, chances are my customers are Hispanic. So I want to use Hispanic imagery. I want to talk about Hispanic festivals, the culture, the colors, the emotions, my accent, nationality, language, religion. I mean, this can go on and on and on. So you need to be able to relate to your customer. The point is, don't try to be something who you are not, right? Focus on your customer and use the imagery and the text that relates to that customer. And if you do that, they're more likely to click on that title or your image and watch your video. So let's see, we were able to display our video to lots of people, and we got some people to click on our image and they are now watching the video. But the problem is that many of these customers will quickly just move on to a next video. You need to keep them engaged so they watch more of your video. And you do that by keeping them excited, by keeping a mystery, by telling them there's a value coming. So the idea here is to show trailer. Don't go out there and start talking about the entire movie all at once. Lay down to your pieces, get them excited, deliver the value up front. So a lot of people try to hold on to like really good stuff to the end of the video. Don't do that, because if you do that, then the customer has already lost the interest and they will move on. Spill your beans, but do it in such a way that people want to watch more, right? Focus on how are you going to help them. Focus on once they watch the video, what will be the end outcome? What would they learn? What are you going to talk about in the video? So focus on all those things. One of the key things you can do to get people excited is lots of energy. So you see, I whenever I'm on YouTube, I see people doing all kind of funky stuff, like, for example, starting the camera upside down or jumping on the screen or jumping from here. Whole point is that they want to display energy because energy gets people excited. So I definitely bring energy. You don't have to break your camera. You don't have to break your room, but definitely, drink some water, exercise, and bring your energy. Don't sound monotonic. Don't sound sleepy. Don't sound like you're tired. Get people going. Like they want to see, okay, you're excited about your subject matter, so I should be excited about that subject matter. Now, these are obvious things that you can do, but there are certain things you don't want to do. So, for example, don't give a big introduction. A lot of people spend time talking about themselves and about their company. Believe me, that's a different video. Okay, have a good audio. Like make sure you buy a good microphone, make sure you have a good camera. Well, most cell phones are good cameras these days, but audio that's where we commonly see mistakes. Having an accent is not a problem. That's okay. People understand that not everybody is from the United States. Some of us are from other countries. So it's okay to have an accent, but don't be monotonic. Don't be disrespectful. I know this is starting to become a little very common for people to use bad language in video and stuff like that. So my personal recommendation, avoid that. That's just no fun. All we're doing is giving some more bad karma to the world. We don't want to do that. All right. Clickbait techniques, deliver what you promise. Don't try to be dishonest. Don't try to tell them you're going to do this and then it's something else. Avoid that kind of stuff. That's just not good business. There are a lot of advanced things you can do. For example, in this particular video, I have used some graphics, I've used some animations, I've used videos. So you can use that to engage your customers a little bit more, right? But you don't have to do that in the beginning. In the beginning, I would recommend just simple videos, okay? For example, we can build a playlist, we can build like a live videos, we can do interviews, Q&A series. There's a whole lot we are going to talk more about in the content part that's going to help you with this growing your watch time as well. So those are some of the things you can do to engage your customer and keep them watching your video. So pay attention to how much time, like it's very easy to speak a whole lot. Like for example, on this screen, I can spend next 30 minutes talking, but chances are after this, I won't be really adding a whole lot of value. I have already spilled the beans. I need to move on. So try to deliver as much value in the least amount of time possible. And the last part of the equation is obviously you want your customers to subscribe to your channel and come back to watch more videos. All right. Now, oftentimes I see people do not pay attention. At least they don't have a strategy how to get people to subscribe and come back. So let's talk a little bit about that. So you can get your customers to come back if you deliver a good product, if you deliver a good content, if you're able to spark their curiosity, if they're wondering what will come next, if they are engaging with you, if you're asking them questions, they are leaving you comments, you're replying to their comments, right? They're engaging with you in other communities, on Facebook, in groups, via email, on your website, in your blog post, right? Think of them like an actual human being, a person that you're talking to. So the more you engage them, the more likely they are willing to come back and watch more of your content, okay? And the reason for that is because now they're familiar with you. They know who you are, imagine you move into a brand new neighborhood and you see some strange faces because people don't know who you are. But after you've been living there for a while, now you're familiar with them, you're comfortable with them. So it's the same kind of thing. When you go on YouTube, it's a huge community. A lot of people don't know who you are. If you can bring some familiarity to the equation, if you can bring some consistency to the equation, if you can deliver some good content, if you engage with people, then you can actually have your own friend circle. So if you live in let's say a large community of 5,000 people, you might not know all 5,000 of them, but you can make friends with at least 50 or 100 of them. So Facebook is a 2 billion people community, so it's huge. And on that big community, you can make some friends. That's the idea here. So I think I have repeated that a few times myself, whenever you're making your YouTube videos, or for that matter, delivering any kind of content, your goal here is to make friends, right? Think of them an actual person, somebody that you're talking to. It's like your neighbor. It's somebody who lives right next to you. So if you think of that persona, if you think of that person, you will talk to YouTube video like you're talking to a human being. So those are some of the tips you can apply to build a repeat audience. Now, the purpose of today's class was sort of like give you an overview of these 5 steps. By the way, do you guys remember those 5 steps we talked about? So step number 1 was reach, right? Step number 2 was click. Step number 3 was watch. Step number 4 was subscribe. And step number 5 was repeat. Right? So those were the 5 steps. So the idea was so you understand what are those 5 stages and you optimize each one of them. So if you have any questions about any of these, you can go ahead and put in a chat window and I'll be happy to answer those for you. So next, we are going to review your YouTube channels. So all of you guys who had submitted your YouTube channels, we are going to take a look at each one of them and give you guys live feedback. And in our next meeting, we are going to talk about how to write a catchy title. And there are a lot of tips I have for you to come up with really great titles. Okay, so we'll talk about that. We'll see how easily you can build a thumbnail. So you don't have to hire a graphic artist or a graphic designer. You don't need to buy an expensive softwares to do that. I'll show you how easily you can generate your beautiful looking thumbnails. We'll talk about coming up with your content calendar. So oftentimes, one of the very common questions people have, well, what should I make a video about? What should be my topic? So I will give you some suggestions is how you can come up with enormous amount of content just by applying some strategy. So everything is about strategy. If you have a strategy in place, you don't have to think about it twice. For example, if you know how to build a good content, you just put, A, B, C, D, E, F in place, and all you got to do is fill in those blanks, and you got yourself a next video. Okay, so we'll talk about that in the next meeting. Now, what to do before your next meeting? So what you want to do is, last time you guys obviously bought your equipment, so I want to make sure that everybody's comfortable using those equipment. So if you have not purchased them, please purchase them, but we want to make sure that you are 100% ready to go and start working on your YouTube channel. Now, the goal here is for those of you guys who want to build a channel, we need to come up with some goals as to how many visitors you want, like how many views you want, what kind of reach you want, who should be your audience. So we'll be talking about all that kind of stuff. But to do that, we need to make sure that our channel is up and running, right? The next thing we want to do is make sure you upload at least 2 videos. Okay, so if you haven't done so already, then please work on those. So I want to see them minimum of 10 minutes each, so 2 videos. And then lastly, you want to share those 2 videos with at least 10 friends and ask for their feedback. So this is tip number 3 actually for the day. Okay, so the tip number 3 is asking for feedback. If you will, you'll be surprised that we hang around with some of the intelligent people in our community. Okay, these people can give us a lot of help and a lot of suggestions, but we just don't ask. Okay, so you need to get comfortable asking for feedback. So what you want to do is make a video, send it to 10 friends, not family members, friends. Ask them, hey, can you please take a look at this video and give me a feedback? If you make a super long video, like a 30-minute video, they might not give you feedback because it's too long. That's why I said make it about 10, 12 minutes, 15 minutes at the most, and ask for feedback, and you'll be surprised how much you can learn. So that's what's coming up in the next meeting. For the time being, let's get started with reviewing your YouTube channel. But before we do that, let me answer some of your questions.